Lesson 63 is about symbols of inclusion, and the best way to learn these about what they are is just to do some practice problems. Look at practice problem A. We have symbols of inclusion there in that problem. Symbols of inclusion, all they are is just like parentheses. And what we have there, you can see some braces, or actually the ones with the square corners, those are usually called brackets. Braces look like this. And then we have our typical parentheses, which are just curved. We use those brackets, braces, and parentheses to include a specific group of numbers. One really important application of symbols of inclusion is when you are doing some mathematical operation on your calculator, or if you know what Microsoft Excel is, it's a program that's you can get on your computer. A lot of times you need to use symbols of inclusion to make the computer do the operation correctly that you want it to do. For example, if you wanted your calculator to do this operation, 2 times 3 minus 1, and you really wanted it to do the subtraction part first, you can't just type it in your calculator like that. You'd have to say 2 times 3 minus 1 and put the 3 minus 1 in parentheses. And I'm talking about if you were using a graphing calculator. That's how you would have to do it if you were doing or using a graphing calculator. If you just typed it in without those parentheses, and there's a button on the graphing calculator that allows you to put parentheses in, but if you didn't use those, your calculator would do the 2 times 3 first, and then it would subtract 1 from that. So being able to work with symbols of inclusion is an important thing, important skill to have. So for symbols of inclusion, an important tip to remember when you're doing operations with them is to simplify the innermost set first. For example, on practice problem A, what we would do is just rewrite this problem underneath the original one, and we'd simplify that innermost set first. So we'd do that 7 minus 3, which is 4. Now all we're left with are the brackets. We simplify those next. 20 minus 46. Think about a number line. We'd go to the right 20, and then we'd have to go back to the left 46. So we'd end up with a minus 26 for an answer on that one. Remember in lesson 52 when we did order of operations and we talked about those steps? Step 1 was to simplify powers and roots, and then I also said that if you had any symbols of inclusion that you were supposed to simplify within those as a first step as well. Then you went through and did multiplication and division, then you go through and do addition and subtraction. Look at problem B, let's do that one. Remember what you should do on these is write that problem out on your paper, and that gives you a pattern to follow and helps you stay organized. You can't go back and check your work on these problems like you can some. So it's more important to just stay organized on these problems. Find a way that helps you stay organized. And I think the best way to do these is just to work them vertically, just one part above the next. And so we have to work our innermost sets of parentheses first. We start with 95 minus 4, bracket 2, and then we have a minus 1 plus 4 there. So we just kind of visualize a number line. To the left 1, and then back to the right 4 would put us at positive 3. And so then we say 95 minus 4 times 2 times 3, that would give us a 6. Now we just have 95 minus 24, and that would give us a 71. And there's our answer. It took us 4 lines to do that problem, but that's okay. The goal in doing math is not to see how little of an amount of paper you can use to do your mathematics. The goal is to see how perfect you can be. At least that's one of the goals, anyway, of doing mathematics. Let's do another problem. This time we have a fraction that we're dealing with, and if you remember in lesson 52 I said on problems like this to work the numerator and denominator out separately and then combine them back together, reduce as you need to. So let's just work on the numerator first, and let's just rewrite it over here, just like we were doing a typical problem dealing with order of operations. And we'll do our multiplication first. We don't have any symbols of inclusion here, so we just say 4 plus 30 minus 2. And I like to work in pairs on these, so I say 4 plus 30 is 34 minus 2 equals 32. Now I'll go back over here, write my numerator down, put a fraction bar, and now I'll go ahead and work on the denominator. 6 parentheses or brackets 7 minus 3 minus 16. Do the parentheses first, so it has 6 times 4 minus 16. Now we can just go ahead and do multiplication. 24 minus 16 is equal to 8. That's the denominator. 32 over 8, that's equal to 4. That's our answer, 4. Let's do one more problem. 11 plus 2. Let me make that a little more clear that that's an 11 at the beginning there. 11 plus 2, parentheses 9 minus, remember what those bars mean there? Those two? That's absolute value, right? So we need to figure out that absolute value first. Remember, that's what we want to do on a problem like that. And I don't have much room below that one, so I'm just going to rewrite it to the right here. 11 plus 2, parentheses 9 minus, the absolute value of negative 3 means the distance that negative 3 is from the origin. That would just be 3. So we just put a 3 there. Now we work inside the parentheses. 11 plus 2 times 9 minus 3 would be 6. That gives us 11 plus 12, which would equal 23. And there's our answer. So another first step we might want to add when we're working with order of operation type of problems is we do powers and roots and absolute value symbols first. Get rid of those. Then our symbols of inclusion. Then we do multiplication, division steps. Then we do addition, subtraction steps. So we really it would be better to have 4 steps to think about doing these problems now. Step 1 is to get rid of powers, roots, and absolute value symbols. Step 2 is to work inside parentheses. Step 3, multiplication, division. Step 4, addition and subtraction. Okay, well that's all for lesson 63.